I don't think any of us are immune to bumping into a dip in self-esteem, moments that sting where our sense of worth is dropped, or perhaps even long periods in our life where our esteem is seriously damaged. So let us do a wisdom well together on low self-esteem and discover what happens in this process. This is a self-coaching meditation. I don't know what's going to show up yet. I am literally building an inner well. You're welcome to join me. We start with digging the well, asking, then opening, and then finally live, which are 4 big categories for this methodology, which I call my wisdom well process, as covered in my book, 100 Wisdom Wells. I have been working to find wisdom since the age of 13. I know it sounds crazy. I'm now 54. At the age of 13, I dedicated my life to the pursuit of wisdom, have been doing so ever since, and I've had the fortune in not only learning how to build my own wisdom well, so I would not say I am wise. I would say I've found a way to wisdom. I've learned how to reliably access wisdom deeper than the surface noisy mind, and to learn the important way to discern the difference between intuitive inner guidance and the chattering torture chamber sports commentator that we all have as part of what it means to be human. I've also taught many people to do the same over many years. So I'm going to take you through this wisdom well, focusing on self-esteem. Follow along. You're likely to get 2 main benefits from watching this. Number 1, it's an opportunity to actually access your own inner wisdom, to feel into this, to sense into this, but it's also a practical demonstration of the process, which you can then start learning, as many of my community do, and my students. You can learn this for yourself as a method, as a loose general framework to keep strengthening your own wisdom well. And I do serve a lot of coaches, a lot of consultants, a lot of healers and leaders who learn my methods to forward on to those they serve. Let us then start our wisdom well process on self-esteem. It's always important when we begin our wisdom well process that we start with what I call dig. And dig means I'm willing to put my hands in the dirt. I'm willing to get raw and real. So take our time, we take our time, and what we do here is we go self-esteem. We consider self-esteem, how we esteem the self. And we're noticing what is true and how it shows up inside of ourselves. We're not trying to make anything different here. We're not judging. We're not analyzing. And it is really helpful just to be honest and to notice. We also aren't making something up and creating a problem if there isn't. We're not creating sadness if there isn't. We're just noticing, how do I esteem the self? What is my sense of my self-esteem? And of course, the sting of a low self-esteem or a threatened self-esteem is something we can put on the table. It's something we can be kind to ourselves about. And when we dig our well, this is an invitation also to be a kind friend to our feelings. So instead of I have a low self-esteem, we can try out a different approach, which is this song of sadness, this voice inside of me, this part of me that experiences self-doubt, criticism, negative self-talk, however it shows up. This is a part of me. This is something in me. I am not in it. But we still acknowledge, how does self-esteem show up for you? Does it show up somatically in the body as a tight feeling in the chest? Does it show up as chatter, as critical thoughts? Does it show up with guilt or embarrassment? Does it show up as resistance? And don't overthink, just notice. And there's no need to go into this deeply, just enough to touch it, to go, that is what I'm bringing into the space. Because when we bring these parts of ourselves that are struggling, that have real patterns of pain and struggle, when we bring them to our wisdom well, they get to drink from the wisdom. When we bring the dry, dead earth to meet the bucket of water, we get to transform that. We don't need to bypass and skip the dirt to go straight for the water. The whole purpose of your inner wisdom is to bring it to life, to bring it to the surface of your life, so that we can transform the surface of our lives. And to do that, we can't skip over what shows up authentically in our bodies, in our minds, as real struggles, as the struggle to be human, because certainly it takes a lot of courage to be human, doesn't it? So there is the dig. Now we ask the question, and the question is the bucket we send into our inner well. One of my favorite questions to ask is simply, what is the deeper truth? Or, how does wisdom see this? I want to know how wisdom sees self-esteem. I am willing to discover a different perspective. I know how my surface mind approaches it. I know how my heart feels. I know if I'm in the throes of a low self-esteem inner storm, or if there is the pressure of a belief or a thought that is really hijacking my intuition, the flow of my life, my ability to make decisions, my ability to relate, my ability to put myself out there and know what that is. I understand it. But I am willing to be wrong if that proves to be true. I'm open to whatever wisdom, which is clear seeing and clear being. My definition of wisdom is not knowledge. It is clear seeing, clear being. It is actually seeing and being from the deepest true nature of what we are. As if the surface mind is a lens we're looking through, and now we're looking from, and we're discovering how the deeper true self sees this unlimited, unconditioned consciousness that is our true being and true seeing. And we are inviting that into the space, which then means your inner teacher and your inner student get to meet. And we're going to not let ourselves try to make this into a Hollywood thing. We're keeping it ordinary, we're keeping it real. So how does wisdom see self-worth? What is the deeper truth about worth and self-esteem and low self-esteem? That's the intention. And your intention sends the bucket down. Intention guides attention. And wherever attention is what we are tuned into. So if attention is on the surface mind, then we have handed the microphone to our surface minds. If attention is on fear, we have handed the inner microphone to fear. It's not wrong, it's just wonderful to be conscious of this and to realize that we have a choice, that we can give the microphone to something else. We can slow down, we can create some space, and we can become more interested in how wisdom sees. And we can not be sure that there is wisdom. I can be sure that within you is always wisdom waiting. But it does take practice, just like it takes practice to build a well. and to get used to drawing it out. And it takes some kind of inner work, doesn't it? But once you've done it and you've tasted the water of your wisdom, you've begun. And I'm sure you have already. So let's open now to how does wisdom see this topic? How does wisdom see a low self-esteem? And this is where, while I record this for you, you can come with me, but you'll notice how important it is. I know it can look like a little bit different or strange, or, the mind is always commenting anyway. But it really is important to slow down. It is really important to create space. It's really important to be in a state of openness, which means I am open. It's also helpful to understand that wisdom doesn't arrive as words, and therefore we understand and admit that all translations of wisdom are in fact translations, and something is always missed in the translation. The words are never perfect. They are always going to be good enough. And therefore, I've learned over the decades how important it is to feel, to intuit, for the knowing that sits behind the words. That words and language are in fact part of the problem, and yet they are also a functional part of reality. And if I could, I would assist myself and many others, and I do this regularly for myself. I would invite people to how incredible it is to really learn how to sit in that knowing and turn it into words, because that literally is how we bring the bucket of water to the surface. So this is me inviting a translation. How does wisdom see self-esteem? To esteem the self. So now, as concepts, ideas arrive. Sometimes there's a sense of words flowing one after the other, almost as if I'm playing secretary and I'm catching the words, knowing the words or translations. Other times, as you may have discovered this for yourself, it's like a package of understanding arrives in one go, and I can almost sense the mind unraveling the whole packet of understanding, as if an understanding has arrived in its complete form, and now it's up to me to sit patiently and let it download and let it become language so that it is useful for Colleen. So when I put into the intention, how does wisdom see self-esteem? There's a sense of a first understanding, and I'm just going to let it flow with words. You're invited to feel into this, to tune in with me. To esteem the self puts forward the question of what self are we esteeming? The very word, the very definition of self is indeed a part of the problem, part of the pain. Because when we take ourselves as our thoughts, as our body, as our image, when we make an identity of a feeling, of a bundle of thoughts, when we make an identity from what we see in the mirror, then the self that we are esteeming is indeed the incorrect or the false self. And that invites the pain, the contraction, and the heaviness of believing a lie, believing in something that is not true. And it is no one's fault for having this confusion. The confusion is born of a world that does not know. That thoughts are like streams of data. some recycled from the past, others inherited from others. Some thoughts literally are the streams of internalized influences in your life. But they are nonetheless thought streams and not the self, not the I. The I is that which perceives those thoughts, and this is spoken of and known in many traditions, and it is known deeply by any who drink of their own wisdom and see for themselves, I am not this that I perceive. I am not my thoughts. My thoughts can be like data streaming. And when I make a self of my thoughts, then my thoughts become dictators, prison guards. And I am flung this way and that from any thoughts that arrive. If I claim the true place of the true self, and I esteem the true self, that which is prior to, that which could never be defined by a thought or a word or a flag in the sand, then I am free from the tyranny of thoughts. And thoughts go back to the place they are meant to be, that they are functional, that they have a use in the world, even though that use is nearing the threshold of becoming less valuable as we start to learn to tune in deeper, to deeper knowing, and learn to navigate discernment as we translate knowing and wisdom more accurately. So don't esteem a false self that is masquerading as you. Meantime, it is that you have given it identity when it is not true. You are not your thoughts. Your thoughts are in you. You are not in your thoughts. You exist prior to a thought, arising during the thought, and after the thought, in the gaps and in the silence in between. Therefore, you cannot be your thoughts as much as you are not the screen you are looking at. You are that which observes and that which knows the screen. So esteem the self instead of esteeming the thoughts. And already that will start to lift some of the pain and the struggle of what is labeled low self-esteem. But the original problem is, what self are we referring to? And with a feeling, it is exactly the same. A sad feeling, like a sad song playing through a device, is that it can be painful, it can be beautiful, but it is just a song playing through the nervous system. If we take it as a self and we make ourself our feelings, and then we esteem that as a self, we bind ourselves to that song and we put it on repeat, because human nature is such that we defend identities vigorously. We are very good as humans at making identities out of everything. We plant flags over everything. The music we like, we identify. The clothing we like, we make an identity. Thoughts, we make an identity. Feelings, we make an identity. And all of these are not the true self. Therefore, they are all songs playing through the true self. And if we were to esteem that true self, we would be able to give much healing to the heart. We would come to the heart's sadness with tenderness and compassion. But notice the difference between being compassionate towards a feeling that is in you versus identifying as that feeling, I am my sadness. And notice what changes. So to esteem the self is to break free from the hypnosis of believing that I am my thoughts, believing that I am my feelings, believing I am my image, the way people perceive me, this body. And the image that we create for others. Which is bound up by thoughts and feelings and anchored by those. All the while, if you only knew the self that truly is the one to be esteemed, that is ordinary and whole, and more deeply satisfying to know than anything we could imagine. That the esteemed self, its very nature is peace, love, content, joy. Not something to acquire like Pac-Man, hungry, chasing, but literally qualities of being. And that these qualities of being, once known, can sing through our nervous system. This is how we bring the teacher to the inner student, the inner teacher to the inner student. And then we notice that even if millions of us build our own wells, that we all drink from the same water, and the walls between us dissolve, just as love dissolves walls. So to esteem the true self is to begin to esteem that which is in common with all of humanity and all of life itself in the cosmos, in the universe. It is to find and to discover that this self-esteem is the ticket to everything we hoped for, everything we longed for. To know we are not ever isolated, alone, separate creatures struggling and grabbing for scraps on a little blue planet. It is the invitation to know for ourselves and to see for ourselves that this esteemed self is known by all who are able to and who are willing to, and all are able if they are willing to build their wisdom well, to drink and to know for themselves what true being and true seeing is and how it can be planet changing. Certainly, your world needs your wisdom. So when you bump into a low self-esteem, how we live this truth, so that it isn't a concept on a bookshelf, so that it is lived. Be kind to the parts of yourself that have forgotten the deeper truth, that are not accessing it. Be kind to the desert that is just dry. And find this wisdom. Consider the words I've given you. Feel into the deeper truth. Find your own way of seeing that all low self-esteem is because of a false idea of a self that is not who you truly are. And then esteem the true self. And see what happens. Thank you.